Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu, and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT13, and BT13 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to be able to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be the ShineGreymon deck. So ShineGreymon, as of BT13, is looking to be positioned as one of the more powerful decks out of the set and into the incoming meta after 3 whole waves of support, all focused around utilizing Marcus as not only just a really good aggro tool, but a really good resource engine in of himself. And the BT13 update to the deck really helps flesh it out, bring it home, and adds another Marcus to the table, so that way we could try to make our deck and our plays as consistent as we possibly can. So Bandai, as per usual, has started offering us some little tidbits on where to start when building a ShineGreymon deck. So you could read their description on what they think about the cards, and they even have a couple of cards that they define as staple cards for the deck that you're going to want to use, on top of a recommended deck composition, so that way you could start iterating from there based on what you personally like and prioritize into the incoming meta. So you could feel free to take a look at this at your leisure, and it even has a little deck strategy write-up that you could read as well. But that's just their interpretation of the deck, and this is my interpretation of the deck. So, starting off with the Digitamas, I am going to be running 4 copies of BT5 Koromon. I know that they were using a yellow egg, and there is some pretty decent yellow eggs for us to use, as well as other red eggs, but as long as they're Koromons, it doesn't really matter, just because we care about the Koromon name for the special Digivolution condition on our level 3 Digimon. The BT5 Koromon versus all of the other Koromons just acts as a nice draw engine when we're being aggressive with our Digimon, which allows us to try to find our parts and pieces a little bit faster than utilizing some of the other Koromons. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Agumon. So this is the brand new BT13 version of Agumon, and this is a really good card for its passive ability while it's just sitting on the field, where during your main phase, once per turn, you get to treat one of your Marcuses as if it was a 3000 DP Digimon that can't Digivolve. So this way, in case we don't have the BT12 Marcus, we could still use our other Marcuses to be able to swing with and gain some benefits and value off of. And then its inheritable ability is just adding some pretty decent control into the deck, where during your turn, when one of your red or yellow tamers becomes suspended, which you're obviously going to be doing because your Marcus is going to want to try to attack, then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with a 3000 DP or less. So if we can combine this with some DP reduction, then we could basically increase the range in which this can delete Digimon, which is one of the sub-themes on how ShineGreymon is going to want to play, is just messing around with the opponent's DP as well as their security, as well as interacting with our Marcus, which this card is doing all of that. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Agumon. So this is the EX4 version of Agumon, and this is a pretty decent Agumon for its static ability while it's chilling on the field, where we get to gain a memory if we have a red or yellow tamer in play, which we could use to pay for the BT12 Marcus right away if we really wanted to. Then on top of that, it also has a nice inheritable ability that's acting as a really good draw engine for when our red or yellow tamers are becoming suspended, to try to make the deck as consistent as we possibly can. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Agumon. So this is the BT12 version of Agumon, and this is going to be the deck's dedicated digging tool to try to look for our other Greymon-based cards and our Marcus Tamer more specifically. Then its inheritable ability is another control-style inheritable ability, similarly to what we just saw with the BT13 Agumon, except instead of deleting one of the opponent's Digimon with a 3000 DP or less for our Tamer being suspended, it's just giving them a nice minus 2000 DP debuff. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running a full lineup of GeoGreymons, which is why the Agumon lineup that we have is really good, because we can meet the special Digivolution condition on all of our GeoGreymons by allowing us to Digivolve them even more efficient than their printed cost, on top of Agumons with dinosaurs in their traits, which all of our Agumons are. So what this card is actually doing, and the fact that we're going to be running 4 copies of him, is because he's really important at being able to find and play our Tamer. So his when Digivolving ability allows us to search our security stack for a red or yellow Tamer, and then play it for free, and if we do, then we get to recover 1, so it's an alternative way at trying to be able to find and set up our Tamer. Then his inheritable ability is exactly the same as what we just saw with the BT13 Agumon, just having some good control when our Tamers become suspended. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of the EX4 GeoGreymon. So the EX4 GeoGreymon is doing the exact same thing as what we just saw with our EX4 Agumon, so that way we have the consistency on the abilities on what stage we want to use them in, and potentially stack the abilities depending on the current state of our field. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of the BT12 GeoGreymon. So the BT12 GeoGreymon has a nice when Digivolving ability to be able to allow us to play a Marcus if we don't already have one in play, so that way we have a way to be able to set up our Marcus and start our engine going. Then on top of that, his inheritable ability is doing the exact same thing as what we just saw with the BT12 Agumon, having even more DP reduction capabilities in the deck. Next, on to the ultimates, I'm going to be running 4 copies of RizeGreymon. So the reason why I want to use as many GeoGreymons as I possibly can in my level 4s is because almost all of our level 5s that we're going to be playing outside of RizeGreymon X Antibody has a special Digivolution condition, Digivolving even more efficiently on top of GeoGreymons. But what this card is actually doing outside of that is the fact that when we Digivolve up into him, we get to play a Marcus Damon from our hand for free, so we have even more ways on being able to spit out our Marcuses, so that way we can make sure we always have a Marcus or 2 on the field. Then on top of that, his second All-Turns ability is the exact same as his inheritable ability, having some nice protection for our Tamer, where when our Tamer does get deleted, because partially we're going to be attacking with it, or the opponent could have removal for it, then we get to put it on the top of our security from our trash face down. So that way, we'll always make sure that we have a Marcus in waiting, whether it's going to be from the opponent needing to attack our security to try to win the game, thus allowing us to replay our Marcus, or use it in combination with the BT13 GeoGreymon to dig it out of our security. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of RizeGreymon from BT12. So RizeGreymon from BT12 is doing almost the exact same thing as what we just saw with the RizeGreymon from BT13, where it's going to have that same level of protection, while this card is just statically on the field, and as a nice inheritable for our Marcus being able to put it into our security when it gets deleted. The only difference on the cards is the fact that this card has a different when Digivolving ability to be able to gain a memory when we have a red or yellow Tamer in play, so it's just making him a little bit more efficient to go into, whereas the other one is helping set up more Marcuses. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 2 copies of RizeGreymon X Antibody. So I still value RizeGreymon X Antibody, even though it isn't the most efficient at times. We're obviously going to be trying to Digivolve it for 1 on top of our RizeGreymons, so that way we could gain full value out of its when Digivolving ability to not only just to play a red or yellow Tamer from our hand, so that way we could set up more Marcuses on the field, but to the fact that if we have RizeGreymon in his Digivolution source, then one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 2000 DP for each red or yellow Tamer that we have in play, so we could try to control their field, as well as the fact that he's also going to be a really aggressive level 5 Digimon for us to use because of his secondary ability, where for each Tamer we have in play, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP, so he could easily hit for relatively higher numbers compared to most level 5s. And then when it comes to the level 6s, one of the reasons why I'm running a RizeGreymon level 5 lineup, again, is the fact that our level 6s digivolve more efficiently on top of Digimon with RizeGreymon in its name. So yes, this special Digivolution condition does work with the RizeGreymon X Antibody. But the brand new BT13 ShineGreymon is a pretty decent supporting mega for the deck, which is why I'm going to be running 2 of him, because he has a nice ability that triggers at the start of our main phase and when we digivolve up into him, where until the end of the opponent's turn, we get to treat one of our Marcuses as a Digimon with 3000 DP with blocker that can't digivolve, so we have more ways to be able to turn our Marcuses into Digimon to be able to attack with them, or the fact that we have the ability to make him a blocker means that we could even use our Marcuses defensively to try to block and then put them into our security with our RizeGreymon's abilities. Then on top of that, he has a nice all turns ability where when one of your red or yellow tamers becomes suspended, so this supports both the aggro or defensive possibilities of our Marcus, then one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 6000 DP for the turn, so this makes our Marcus an even stronger blocker potentially, or able to start to DP reducing the opponent's Digimon to try to delete them. But the main mega of the deck is going to be 4 copies of ShineGreymon from BT12. So ShineGreymon from BT12 is the big combo card that we're trying to use, not only to make our Marcuses as strong as they possibly can be when we're being aggressive with them, but also to try to control the opponent's field at the same time. So his When Digivolving ability states that for each red or yellow tamer that we have in play, one of the opponent's Digimon and all of their security Digimon get minus 3000 DP for the turn, so that way we could try to DP reduce and potentially delete the opponent's Digimon, and make it even easier for our Marcus to swing into the security and live. Then on top of that, it's really important for our Marcus to be as strong as it possibly can be, because his secondary ability states that all of your Marcuses in play gain plus 3000 DP and security attack plus, so that way our Marcuses can hit even harder than they normally would be able to. And then when it comes to the level 7s of the deck, I'm going to be running 2 copies of ShineGreymon Burst Mode. So ShineGreymon Burst Mode has a special Digivolution ability of Burst Digivolution, where for utilizing our ShineGreymon, we get to return a Marcus to our hand to be able to Digivolve into this card for free, but we have to basically de-Digivolve this Digimon at the end of the turn, so we do get a temporary boost if we utilize this Burst Evolution, or we could just Digivolve him normally. But this card is really powerful, especially in combination with our Bursted Digivolution, because it allows us to have some combo plays where when we digivolve into this card, we get to play a Marcus Damon from our hand for free, and then treat the tamer that we played with this effect as a 12k Digimon with Rush, so that way we could be able to swing with our Marcus, and this is really powerful because we just bounced a Marcus to our hand utilizing Burst Digivolution, which we just played the Marcus that we just bounced. So that can create some really powerful combo plays depending on what we have set up. Then its secondary ability is still really powerful, where during your turn, once per turn, when one of your tamers becomes suspended, because of course it did, because we're attacking with it, then we get to trash the top card of the opponent's security stack, so that way we have even more damage dealing potential with some nice burn added into the deck as well. And then the last Digimon and last level 7 of the deck is going to be 1 copy of ShineGreymon Ruin Mode. So this is a tech or flex spot, and it could really be anything you want it to be, but I still really like this card in case we do need to have some defensive lines of play. So this card does digivolve a little bit cheaper on top of our ShineGreymons, but we can also utilize the BT12 Marcus to be able to digivolve into this Digimon for free. But regardless on how we could digivolve into this card, it still has a really powerful when digivolving and on delete ability, which we could trigger both in one turn because it's not once per turn, where until the end of the opponent's next turn, all of the opponent's Digimon get minus 5000 DP. So if we stack the when digivolving and on delete abilities to trigger this twice, that's a minus 10,000 DP debuff onto the opponent's field, so it could really limit a lot of their potential plays. And then it even has a way to trigger its on-delete ability itself with its secondary ability, where at the end of the attack, we get to delete this Digimon and one of the opponent's Digimon and recover one. And if we have a tamer in play, even hatch a Digi-Egg into an empty space in our raising area, so that way we could reload, recover, control, all at the same time. And then when it comes to the tamers, I'm going to be running just strictly Marcuses, just because I don't really feel like I need any other tamers. So I'm going to be running 4 copies of Marcus from BT13. This is going to be the deck's dedicated memory setting tamer. It is a little bit on the more expensive side, but we have plenty of ways to be able to play this card for free, where that really doesn't matter. Then when we do play him, he actually does have an on-play ability to suspend this tamer. That pairs up with his third ability, where during all turns, when this tamer becomes suspended, one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 3000 DP for the turn, and then if one of our Digimon has Agumon or Greymon in its name, then we get to gain 1 memory, acting as some really good control, especially if we're pairing it up with some of the defensive capabilities that we have inside of the deck. But as far as some of the more offensive capabilities that we can play around with, that's going to be going to the 4 copies of BT12 Marcus. So BT12 Marcus at the start of our main phase, as long as we have an Agumon or Greymon in play, we could just pay 1 to turn himself into a Digimon with 3000 DP that can't Digivolve. So the fact that we don't need any other cards to make this card online is one of the reasons why it's so good, because it's really hard for the opponent to be able to stop this Marcus as long as we just have a Digimon that he's going to be interacting with, which is the majority of the deck. Then on top of that, his secondary ability is also insanely good. So not only can he turn himself into a Digimon to be able to swing relatively cheaply and efficiently, but when this tamer becomes suspended because we're swinging with this card, one of your Digimon can Digivolve into a yellow card with Greymon in its name from our hand for free. So free evolutions are absolutely insanely powerful, especially if we're using it on our higher stages to be able to go into our level 5s, 6s, or even 7s. And then when it comes to the options, you do have some flexibility in terms of what you want to potentially run. So I'm going to be running 2 copies of Yellow Memory Boost, just because all of the Digimon in the deck are part yellow. If you wanted to, you could run the Red Memory Boost, but if you do, I would highly recommend cutting out the Ruin Mode, because that's a card you can't search for off of that card, and at least with Yellow Memory Boost, we could still search that card out specifically. But this is just going to be another consistency tool for the deck, while also having the delay ability to gain extra memory at a later turn, so that way we can make even more powerful and explosive plays. And then the only other option that I'm going to be running is going to be 1 copy of Sunrise Buster. So Sunrise Buster is another Techer Flex spot. I just really like this card because it's a really cheap and efficient way at being able to play out one of our red or yellow tamers from our hand. And then for us having a whole bunch of tamers on the field, one of the opponent's Digimon is going to get minus 3000 DP for each red or yellow tamer that we have in play. So we could use this card to try to control the opponent's large level Digimon for relatively cheap, while also doubling as a nice security threat that the opponent is going to have to worry about. And then when it comes to the overall game plan and gameplay of the deck, it realistically doesn't matter as much how we're going to be digivolving up into our Digimon. We just want to try to set up a very specific combo, which I'll go over, on trying to deal as much damage as quickly and effectively as we possibly can. So when it comes to the uses of our level 3s, again, it doesn't really matter which one we're going into. I prefer to use the EX4 one just because we could try to take advantage of its abilities better out of the raising area. Then when it comes to the other 2, obviously we want to try to use the BT12 to try to draw out our parts and pieces, while having an Agumon on our field to digivolve into our GeoGreymons that are going to set up our Marcus, or we're going to use the Agumon from BT13 to turn a Marcus that we already have on the field into a Digimon to be able to use our Marcus for some of our various other abilities. So these are the cards that I usually found myself hard playing multiplying and getting onto the field, where I'm going to be using the EX4 in the raising most of the time. Then when it comes to the level 4s, I kind of have that same level of sentiment, where off of these two that I'm going to want to try to have sit passively on the field, I'm going to be using them to digivolve into the GeoGreymons to try to help set up our tamer, so that way we have our tamer to be able to do our big power and combo plays with. Or I'm going to be using the GeoGreymon from EX4. Again, similarly to this, it's the best out of the raising area, but again, it doesn't necessarily matter as much when it comes to what level 4 we're going to be using digivolving in our raising area or on the field. Then when it comes to the level 5s, this is the part where this is why I kind of prefer the EX4 GeoGreymon. So that way, if I have, let's just say, a searcher that I digivolved into a GeoGreymon to be able to set up our Marcus, then I'm already in a really good position. So that way, if the opponent, let's just say, puts me to 3, I'll be able to raise out, gain a memory, go to 4, and then be able to pay the memory for the Marcus to go back down to 3, and still be able to digivolve it into a level 5 and not pass turn for our big combo play. So when it comes to the actual big combo play, it realistically doesn't matter which RizeGreymon we're going to be utilizing. If we're a little bit shy on memory, then the RizeGreymon from BT12 is going to be really good at being able to maintain memory, or if we just need to try to get another Marcus out just because we could, then the RizeGreymon from BT13 is also really, really good. But just for the sake of the memory, I'm going to be utilizing RizeGreymon, so that way I could digivolve him for essentially 2, be able to be at 1. So even if you started at 2, go up to 3, you could still, again, make the same level of play. You just would be at 0 memory. Then from this point, I would have turned my Marcus into a Digimon. I'm going to swing with my Marcus. My Marcus's ability is going to trigger, allow me to digivolve mid-attack into ShineGreymon. ShineGreymon's when digivolving ability is going to be going off, and it's going to make my Marcus even stronger. So he's going to swing 2 checks at the opponent's security for a decent amount of damage. Hopefully he's going to live, because if he does live, that allows us to be able to then use our burst mode to be able to burst, return the Marcus that already swung into our hand, and then the Marcus that we just returned is going to be the one we're going to want to replay, just because off of our burst mode, he's going to be able to gain the rush ability and be able to swing again, and then that allows us to digivolve the extra GeoGreymon on our field, or extra Digimon on our field, into a higher stage Digimon, if we even have one. So you could already start to see the amount of damage that we could potentially do, because off of our Marcus with our ShineGreymon, that's already going to be 2 security checks, then burst mode into a Marcus again. That's going to be another 2 checks, one from the burn and one from the damage, and if the opponent has 1 card in their security, then the burn is just going to allow us to be able to make that winning play, which incentivizes us to use some early game chippage, which is why I like the Koromon. And even if we didn't, then we still can swing with our mega level Digimon and try to deal some decent damage that way as well. So you could kind of see all of the moving parts and pieces on how things are going to want to try to float and function. And when it comes to Ruin Mode and the other ShineGreymon, they're just going to be some of the defensive backbone to try to stall out the opponent and make their plays as inefficient as we possibly can, while we're waiting and biding our time to try to get into that type of a combo play to be able to kill the opponent with. And when it comes to having a good core or foundation for the deck, a lot of it is just going to be us utilizing the EX4, BT12, and BT13 cards, so that way we could try to optimize the usage on how we want to play our Marcuses, with the BT12 Marcus being one of the most important cards in the entire deck, allowing our combo plays to be as powerful as they possibly can be. Along with ShineGreymon from BT12 and ShineGreymon Burst Mode as the other key components to that combo to try to deal as much damage as we possibly can. And then when it comes to the other tech and tools that we could run in the deck, as the more cards that we got to make the deck, well, more feature complete, the less room we actually would have to be able to play various other tools, but we still have some other really good tools that we could lean into and to change the build ever so slightly, again, depending on what you want to play and prioritize and the expected meta you're going up against. So as I already stated before, we do have some other Koromons that we could think about leaning into, just because all of our Agumons currently just care about Koromons. But if you want to play something like Agumon X Antibody that does incentivize you for using a red base, Agumon X Antibody still is an Agumon that's part dinosaur and another searcher or digger for our Greymon base cards at the very least. Then speaking of other searching and digging tools, we do have Kudamon and Hawkmon and potentially Armadillomon as other really interesting and decent searchers, depending on what you're looking for out of your extra searcher. Then we could think about running Greymon X Antibody and a base Greymon just to try to have some extra cards that we could use. It's a little bit less efficient in some areas to be able to run it, and it does make the deck a little bit clunky, but it does offer some various different benefits, again, depending on how you're approaching your deck build. Then we do have another inline RizeGreymon that we could think about utilizing. This is just strictly worse because it is trying to protect our Marcus, but not necessarily in the ways that we actually would want, but it's not a bad card nonetheless, as just being another really good inline RizeGreymon. Then, speaking of other inline Greymons, we do have other ShineGreymons that we could run. I would highly recommend, if you're going to be running any other ShineGreymon, run the BT2 yellow one, just because of how Marcus works interacting with yellow Greymons. Then we do have some other really good options that we could lean into, like Final Shining Burst for some good control and being able to play out our Marcus Tamer specifically. And we also do have Shining Blast that's doing something, again, very similar, more control, while also being able to play out our Marcus. Then, if you wanted to, you could think about running some various other Tamers in the deck, just because we do have the ability to play some other Tamers, again, depending on the type of RizeGreymon and other cards you're looking to use, but most of those cards are actually trying to play Marcuses more specifically, but regardless, we do just have other red and yellow Tamers that we could think about running that help support the deck overall. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.